Today on the TV Time Machine, we welcome Lesley Chilcott, director and executive producer of Helter Skelter, an American Myth. Ms. Chilcott is an Oscar-winning documentary filmmaker, best known for producing An Inconvenient Truth and Waiting for Superman. Over the next segment, Lesley Chilcott will talk about her new docu-series Helter Skelter, an American Myth, which reveals shocking and surprising truths about Charles Manson and the horrific murders that shocked a nation, now airing on Epix. Again, for those of you intrepid enough to listen to this family plot, feel free to probe your television mind as we cease to exist in the present in order to witness the invisible tears of the past. Lesley, thank you for coming on board the TV Time Machine.
It's lovely to be here with you.
Now, Lesley, tell us what Helter Skelter, an American Myth, is all about.
Helter Skelter, an American Myth is about the Charles Manson family, the followers, friends of the family, and the atrocious crimes they committed and the reasons behind them.
So, for those who might not be familiar, what does the term Helter Skelter refer to?
Helter Skelter, incidentally, means different things to different people. It was originally a British amusement park ride. The Beatles sang about it in their song Helter Skelter, and it's come to have this meaning of chaos, and Helter Skelter is coming. And, you know, that could be a race war, that could be any other type of chaos. So now we kind of use it colloquially as craziness or chaos. And Charlie Manson had a lot to do with that because he would play the White Album for the followers of his family, and they would listen to these lyrics. And as we all know, or you will learn in the late 60s, listening to lyrics on acid, Charlie wasn't the first person to do it. He gets a lot of credit for it. But a lot of people were hearing messages in rock music at that time.
Well, he was also a songwriter, is that correct?
He is a songwriter, and that's one of the most surprising things for me is that his songs were not half bad. And in a way, you want to say, I would have never been part of that family. I would have seen it for what it is. I would never be part of a cult. Or if I was, I would be able to get away. But then there's the, musician part of it. And he would come up with lyrics off the top of his head. He had a gift for words. Despite all the other things that he could repeat phrases out of the Bible, song lyrics, phrases over and over, and he could sound very poetic. And I think this is what drew a lot of people to him initially. And so when it all went south, and when he got crazier and crazier, it took a while for people to notice.
So tell us about Charles Manson. Who was he, and what caused him to follow such a dark path in life?
I think there's no one answer to your excellent question, but we did go to West Virginia, where he was raised. We did go to Moundsville Prison, where his mother was sent when he was 5 years old, and he would go and visit her every week and sit on this little stool with his feet dangling and talk to her through a piece of glass, where he couldn't hug her or touch her or any of those things. So there's no doubt that Charles Manson had a difficult childhood. But does that excuse all of the later behavior? He went from one reform facility to another, and in many ways, he didn't have a chance. But one of the questions that we ask is, are killers born or made? And I think the viewers are going to have some pretty strong opinions about that, at least in Charles Manson's case, after watching all 6 episodes. I'm not going to tell you my particular answer there. But we take a real deep anthropological dig and look at that.
Right. The question of our time always is it nature or is it nurture?
Absolutely. And I think for him, it was elements of both. I think when he finally got out of prison when he was 32 and he started picking up girls and boys, and I say girls and boys because these were teenagers and people that were in their early 20s, and he wanted to live out, at Spawn Ranch off of Santa Susana Pass and not be a part of society. And, he had this gift for words and poetry. Initially, I think he actually thought he could have this nice little family that lived off the grid, so to speak. But with family comes responsibility, and he started heading down the wrong path as he always did. Excuse me.
So, Lesley, take us through the events of July and August 1969.
So in July, you have a situation where Charles Tex Watson has a drug deal with a guy named Lasapapa. And this drug deal goes bad for reasons which will be explained in the series. And Charlie Manson ends up, he thinks, killing Lasapapa. He shoots him in the stomach. So he goes back to Spahn Ranch thinking, I have killed this guy. I have killed this black guy. For whatever reason, he believed that he was part of, the Black Panthers, and he thought that people were coming to get him at Spahn Ranch. So this story really is a series of paranoid blunders, one after the other. And through a series of calls from prison, Bobby Beausoleil, who was an acquaintance of the family, a friend of the family, maybe not an official member of the family, explains how Charlie asked him to come to the ranch and guard the ranch, and how things started to go downhill. So Lasapapa, many people that I've talked to in the family or knew the family believe that was kind of the trigger incident. After that, you have Bobby Beausoleil killing a musician, an innocent musician named Gary Hinman. Bobby Beausoleil takes us through that crime and how it happened. There have been 3 different versions of how it happened. And when he was arrested, he told a different version. This time he's telling us, what he says actually happened. And then after that, you have the horrible murders at the Tate house of the 5 people there, and then the Rosemary and Leno LaBianca murders after that. So July and August were an absolute terrible time for anyone in the family and for people that the family knew, because they committed essentially motiveless crimes. And that, I believe, is the reason that we're still talking about it today.
So what inspired you to take a new look at Charles Manson and the Manson family?
That's a good question. I didn't understand the obsession with this case. There have been other cults with far more many members. There have been murderers that have killed far more people. Why do we need to talk about this small-time con artist who was so clever, even after he was in prison, whether it be through parole hearings or letters or interviews he did, was able to keep himself in the press? He maybe wanted to be a rock star, but he succeeded in a different way. He became famous. And there's a lot of people obsessed, if you will, with this story and with this case. And to me, it was so foreign. I wanted to understand why. So, I did an anthropological dig into the time period, like a social history of the late 60s in Los Angeles. And Charles Manson keeps interrupting.
So what can audiences expect to experience when they watch Helter Skelter, an American Myth, on Epix?
I think that they'll get a blow-by-blow story of what happened. I think you'll meet some of these early family members, that didn't commit the crimes, that were just family members. And you might start to think, these people also have families. They were lost at that time. How did they fall for this guy? Is that possible? And could that have been me? And I think we bring a lot of humanity to all of the different characters without lessening the horribleness of the murders themselves. So episode 1, you hear about the origin story of the family and how it all started. Episode 2, we go to West Virginia, where Charlie was formed. Episode 3, we're back in Los Angeles as more and more people are joining the family. Episode 4, we go to the desert. The family's starting to go crazy. And you know what? I realize I'm telling you everything. You have these extra skills. I'm going to stop there. Right. Each episode is a deep dive, and we really do have some things. I know a lot of people say never before seen footage, but we have new film that has been transferred, and we talk to family members that spoken to. So there is new information here.
Well, Lesley, it's been a tremendous pleasure having you aboard the TV Time Machine. Feel free to join us again in the future or in the past.
I would love it. Thank you so much.